Good morning, good
Continue.
afternoon, good evening. This is Eden's Living. Susan Pierce here. And today we have a guru in the house, Mr.
Uh,
Dan Reeves, Mr. Handyman Dan. He is a yogi and he is also an expert in trauma and recovery. So welcome, Dan the man, to Eden's Living.
Hello, welcome back. I am super glad to be here. I will make one clarification that I'm probably not an expert in anything. I am a certified yoga teacher, and I have sat at the feet of some pretty smart people in and around trauma. Don't have any particular training of my own, but I do. I have certainly come to recognize the correlation between this thing we call spiritual sickness and trauma.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the spiritual sickness in the mind, body, and soul. And what is a yogi for my audience? My little Christian people back in Mississippi and Alabama go, what's a yogi? So let's tell them
Yeah.
what a yogi is.
Well, a yogi is just anybody who practices yoga. I am a certified 200-hour teacher. I did that mostly. I didn't really know, so many things have come down my path that I liken to like God laying down sticky notes around,
Yeah,
and and I pick them up, and it's sometimes my job to figure out if that really came from the right source or the wrong source, because
that's
that's
the old
possible
devil
sometimes
whispering.
too. And for some reason I picked one up that got me, well, a gal I was dating tricked me into going to a yoga class. I was like about 18 months sober, and she wanted to take me someplace for my birthday, and she told me that she wasn't going to tell me where that was, but I had to trust her, and that was really tough to do. I really did
Yeah,
not like that. A couple of days beforehand I finally had to say, you have to at least tell me what to wear. I need to know if I need a tie on,
right.
or what we're going to do. When she said just wear some shorts and a t-shirt, I thought maybe we were going to get maybe a couple's massage or something like
Yeah.
that. And we drove up to a place, and she popped open the trunk, and there she grabbed out 2 yoga mats, and she said, I know that if I hadn't have tricked you, you'd have found some reason why you couldn't go. And she knew me well enough to know that to be the truth. And but one of the things that the 12-step recovery program has done is open my mind to things. I don't just shut the door. That contempt prior to investigation that's talked about in the back of the big book. So I went with it, and I walked out of there in one yoga session. This was a combined 12-step meeting. It was combining yoga and 12-step recovery. It's called Y12SR, Yoga 12-step recovery. And so it was an hour and a half meeting. 45 minutes of it was a discussion meeting. And then the last 45 minutes was yoga. And I was hooked. I think, I find that it gives me, it cracks open that natural high. And I come out of there feeling energized like I had never felt before. And that just took me down a path where, I'm going to the studio more and more and more. And then I learned about teacher training, and that girl I was talking about went through teacher training. And, and I really did it. If I could come down to anchor it on something, I went to teacher training to improve my own personal practice. It was just a total personal thing. If higher power wanted me teaching yoga, I'm open to that. And I have taught friends and subbed for teachers and done some things like that. I teach yoga at the retreats that I host, but lo and behold, it wasn't too much longer after that COVID slammed everything shut, and I was like, well, I'm glad that strengthened
It'll
my
run.
personal practice. I was in a position where I didn't need the studio so badly,
Mhm.
although there is I miss it, and we're just now getting back. And
Thank God.
there is a bunch of the energy of doing that. It's the same thing I find when I'm in a room full of people in recovery, and, a room full of yogis and people practicing yoga. If I'm in a group meditation, that higher level energy,
Yeah,
that higher
vibration.
vibration energy,
Mhm.
all combined in a room, man, really is attractive to me. And so I'd
It's
much
that
rather be
community
in a mat.
support.
Yep. Yep.
Yep, we need that. Let's talk about what maybe COVID has done on a psychological level of hiding your house and smothering your face. But I believe also that, as you mentioned, there is a spiritual sickness that we're all going through. Let's touch on that in the isolation aspect of what you have seen. A lot of my addicts have slipped. They're like, I've lost my sobriety. I can't handle not working. I can't handle being in a house. I can't handle not going to get my massage or able to go do things instead of drugs. They had nothing. And like, I have to use. I went, I'm so sorry. Let's, circle back. You can get sober again, but a lot of my folks lost sobriety.
Yep. It's was definitely uh, the epidemic went further than this so-called virus. I really didn't, to be honest with you, I didn't pay any attention to it hardly.
I didn't either.
I
I never
do.
wore, I never covered my face
There
ever.
was things that affected me, and if this store made me wear one to come in there, I did that. And but I never locked down, and I just started this handyman business, and I did have some fear wrapped around that I thought that the handyman business was going to hit the floor because nobody would want you in their home. And I found it to actually to be
Be
just the opposite.
reversed.
All of a sudden, I'm busier than I could ever imagine, and it was awesome because everybody else was home, and I didn't have to worry about scheduling appointments with them. They were just there whenever I wanted to come
Yes.
by, and so, I a lot of I was affected because the yoga studio shut down, and all the mutual support group meetings went to Zoom, and
Did you
but
feel that stress? Because probably about week 5, my anxiety went through the roof. Now, I went and even volunteered to go work on an organic farm to get out of the house,
mhm.
just to ground and be in the sunshine. And I promise you, that person saved my sobriety.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. I do remember that, I have a fighter in me that wants to distrust things like this. And the reality of it is that Dan don't know what it is. I don't have any idea. I am not a doctor or somebody who could make any claims about that stuff, but I do feel that I move safe and protected. And in the beginning, I really didn't like going to Zoom meetings. I was in a thing doing the Mankind Project, and when they first went to Zoom, I copped an attitude and like, well, I am not coming if this is going to be virtual. Never mind. And then a couple of weeks later, next thing you know, the very thing that keeps me alive, my 12-step meetings went virtual too. And I said, well, I
Thank
guess I'm
goodness.
going to have to do this. And I don't really have a choice. It's either participate. I got to participate in my own recovery somehow.
Hmm.
And whatever that avenue is, I just chose to take it, and then the flip side of that is I get me a Zoom license and I just start hosting the meetings,
That's
because
what
that's the
I've
other thing
done.
I do. I'm not much of a back row sobriety kind of guy. I usually am sitting in the front row and doing things to somewhat selfishly make sure that I stay in this safe and protected zone that I've been in since I put down the dope and the booze. Um, it's
Safe
that living
places are hard to
life on
find,
life's
Danny.
terms type of thing, and I had no choice but just to roll with it. I didn't see any sense in uh, fighting the whole thing. Didn't make any sense, but neither did I necessarily have to jump through your hoops either. And I've just found myself in that kind of safe and protected zone all the way through this thing. I did get vaccinated, but the only reason I did is because my 83-year-old father lives with me and he wanted me to. And I thought, well, what the
Oh,
hell?
goodness.
And I had zero effects from it.
Hopefully you got the saline version, but well, I'm not going to tell you anything on here, but we need to talk offline because there's a few key, like, let's say hypothetically, fulvic acid to pull the heavy metals out of the brain. There's some things you need that I work with Mikovich and Sterling Hill, who are gene experts, and Mikovich is the one who weaponized Ebola for Fauci. So these are my team that I work with. So there are some nutritional things and detoxes that I need to have you do.
Hmm. Well, I'd be interested in that. Same kind of thing. I really, uh, some people might think it's crazy, but I feel like I live on a plane that I won't say I'm bulletproof, but I damn near feel like it.
You
um,
have protection of the anointed one like me.
all the most of the people I knew that was most worried about contracting COVID got it,
What's the
you
cold
know,
or flu?
and the people that like, the people that weren't too concerned about it, we skated.
You want to
Uh,
know why?
Go
Because
ahead.
fear lowers the immune system. And if you're not fearful,
Yeah, right.
you're
Yep.
not
I hear
lowering
you.
your immune system.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. Uh, love to be living free with fear today because it's not something I'm going to dodge entirely. But I had a friend that said, this thing isn't learning to live free from fear, it's learning to live free with it. and being free, even though it's still there, uh, was is been good to me. Just to go back a little bit on my like how I got where I'm at. Uh, it's kind of funny to put these pieces together because that trauma aspect, along with the intersection of certain environmental things coming together, I kind of see. I do believe at some level I was born wired to lean towards alcoholism. It ran in my family, but not in my current generation. I never saw my mom and dad drinking to excess,
Your
and I never really witnessed.
grandfather,
I really
grandfather, grandmother,
uh, uncles, great uncles, like
uncles. So
yep,
you have a DNA disposition for addiction.
yep. And but I didn't see it in my parents, and I will go down swinging with you to tell you that I didn't that my parents didn't have anything to do with this.
Right.
I have a different view on that today. Uh, but one thing is that drinking was normalized around my family. I didn't see drunkenness, but drinking was completely acceptable. Everybody, Easter, birthdays,
Hmm.
whatever it was, Christmas, there was some alcohol on hand all the time. And then when I got into like middle school, I started getting, the marijuana, and that started being normalized in my peer circles. And in order to fit in, those chemicals helped me do that. And you hear that over and over again in my podcast about this thing where you didn't feel comfortable in your own skin, you didn't feel like you fit in. And I think that's a human trait. There's a few
Yeah.
people out there who just seem to be the born with the as the life of the party and without having chemicals in them. Uh, but that stuff, and I never would have thought, that toke and them few beers back then would have ended up taking me on the course that it did. And what happened is that just the typical thing of, doing, some beer and some pot was good. But then when I ran, that's kind of getting old, and somebody popped up some cocaine, and I said, hey, let's try some of that. And then somebody,
Oh, the old white horse.
yeah. And then, I did a lot of acid when I was in high school and up into my middle 20s. I actually loved hallucinogenics. If there's anything that still tickles my back of my head, I'll be careful listening to a lot of the. I understand, and I do totally believe that it's probably working the way people are talking about it for PTSD and things
Yeah,
like
the
that.
microdosing of hallucinogenics for post-traumatic stress does work. I'm
Yeah,
actually looking into that.
yeah. And then also, some I liken my little tribe I have to like a military unit. We fight for one another. We're that kind of bonded with one another. And I listen to some podcasts of like special forces guys and some people that's had some real combat trauma, and they're going down, and doing the ayahuascas and
Hmm.
the not microdosing, they're whatever macro dosing, I guess it'd be the other way around, and that they're having it. But I know that's not, that's probably not some area I need to be tickled in. Uh,
Yeah, if you have a past with hallucinogenics and you really love them, that's probably not something
yeah,
it's kind of
so,
like fire, brother. You don't
yeah,
need to
because I
touch it,
never got
right?
any trouble on that. I never had a problem
Yeah,
with
it
it. Is
sounds
what
like
my
me. I
little
never had an
voice wants to
alcohol
tell me.
problem. It was just Oxycontin.
Right.
It's still a
Yep.
chemical. I
Yep.
don't drink now. I never had a problem, but it's a chemical.
Yep.
It alters me. I don't want anything to alter my perception of
Right.
life.
Yep. I agree 100%.
Now,
And
ask me that 25 years ago. Well, man, I want to get stoned. I want to pop my pill. I want to take my Xanax. Like, no.
yep.
Mm-mm.
And as I proceeded down the path of that stuff, I kind of settled back and just turned into a drinker. I got married and had a family, and things were good. And I had a couple nice cars in the garage and a nice house, and held a job for 20 something years. And I just drank every day, and it was mostly beer.
I was about to ask what were your choices? Beer, huh?
Yeah,
All
just
that
mostly
yeast and
beer.
sugar.
Yep. And and I really didn't, there were times where I would look at myself and think, that there's something going on here that's not good, but I would, you try not to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to admit that there's some kind of problem here.
Right.
And I
So
could
what
shake
was
that
the
off.
bottom that you hit that made you realize, crap,
So
I've
one
got a
day,
problem?
that there was a time, and I really don't know when and how, but because I always talk about this, I try to rebuild this chronology, and it doesn't work. I can't like put dates down. And when people talk about dates on my podcast, I kind of push them along because I'm not too sure they're that squared away on their dates anyway. And it really doesn't matter how the timeline lays out.
Right.
But at some point, the alcohol, as we say, stopped working for me. And every time I could not drink enough to feel good. but I
What were
couldn't
you
stop
trying to
it.
numb though? What were you trying to
I
numb?
guess, the stuff, by this time there was a dependence on the chemical just to feel okay.
To feel
You know,
normal.
I look back and have, through step work, and it had some abuse as a child that I was covering up, that I got out for the first time ever when I did my fifth step, and I wasn't going to go to the grave with it. And I was, it was same sex stuff. And we were the
I was
same age.
abused. I was raped at 3 to 6 by cousins.
Wow.
So I
Yeah.
get you. And I never could talk about that, but that's the literal root of my trauma. It was
Right.
never addressed. I could never talk. They threatened to kill me if I told anybody, of course.
Yeah.
And as a 50, let's say 50, I think I was 51, I went back and confronted both of those cousins.
Oh,
And
wow.
went back to the shed and everything. And I went back and I said, you have no authority, or you're not over me anymore. And I
Yep.
released that trauma.
Yep. Well, mine was same sex consensual, and I still can't get wrapped around my head because I was in single digit ages and
They
was,
groomed you. They
and
groomed
this
you.
kid is the same age as me. He was best friend. I mean, the story behind this, his parents were my parents' best friends. Me and this boy were born 1 month apart from one another. We got pictures of us laying in cribs together.
Well, he
And
was being abused then. He
I
was
don't
being
see any
abused.
evidence of that because I'm in a relationship with him now, and we've both cracked that back open now that I've healed myself and been able to talk about it.
Right?
And I don't know what it is,
What
but I know
happened?
it had a completely different effect on me than it had on him. And, I did things to try to make sure you knew I wasn't gay. And, and
I
lost
had
it.
that happen. I had a girl, a 12-year-old, when I was probably 8. And there was a time that in my 20s that I was very sexually confused. I wouldn't even admit this to most people as part of my healing.
Same here.
And I had my fiance leave after my car wreck, and I really hated men for about 3 years. Like, I had no offense. I really had problems with y'all.
I
And
understand.
you need love, you need touch. And just, I met someone, and now that I look back, they were 12 years older. They groomed me.
Yeah.
They groomed me.
So I can't hang anything on this, and that's why I say, whatever whatever this environmental impact that hit me, I can't really, I don't have any hard feelings for it
But you carry
today because I've
shame.
done the
You
healing
carried
from it
shame.
for all that time. Yeah, it was
Carried
just the
shame.
shame of it. Um, but anyway, that stuff, so I had some stuff in the back, and some bullying and some being bullied and different, just little, death by 1,000 cuts kind of things. No real big stuff. I mean, it wasn't like I wasn't
Beat. You
abused
weren't
by
beat and
somebody. I
whipped
wasn't
and
beaten. I wasn't taken and abused by people that were older than me, in any sexual way or any other kind of physical way or mental way for that matter. My parents were pretty damn good all in all. Um, but yet still, I've still had this thing in me that kept me drinking and doping the way that I was. And when the beer quit working, I really didn't know, I couldn't, I'd start my day after work. As soon as I got off work, I would stop by the store and get some, and I would try to drink that away and try to drink that away. And my mom had had a lot of surgeries and different things go on, and she had been diagnosed. So I count this as a piece of my trauma too, is that whenever I was 10 years old, I overheard my mom tell her brothers and sisters and uh, brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws that she had breast cancer. And
oh.
I thought, at that age, I had no idea. And plus I was hiding to listen because they sent us
Mhm.
outside, I was like, go outside and play. And I knew something was up. So I stayed around the corner listening and heard
You're
something that
like me, Dan. I want to know.
yep. And I heard something that I wasn't emotionally able to handle, you
At
know?
8.
Yep. And then so she went through this and over again of these different things going on with her. I believe now that she was a pain pill addict. But where I was going with this is that one day I come home, they were watching my very young children. They watched them. They were our everyday babysitters. And I came home with 3 or 4 beers in me, come by here to pick them up. And I was wandering around mom and dad's house like I did. I'm think about how many times I just paced, just like a lion in a
Mhm.
cage, just pacing around.
Mhm.
Um, and I saw 2 bottles sitting on mom's bedside, and both of them said for pain, and I had pain.
Oh, wow.
And I tell this when I talk about my story. I shook out 2 out of one bottle and 2 out of the other bottle, and I took the 2 small ones and put the 2 big ones in my pocket because I didn't know anything about what this stuff was, you know.
Right.
After some time, I became an amateur chemist. You know, I can tell you what pill and what milligram it is from across the room, right?
Me too. I
But
can
at
tell
the
what
time, I didn't know
color,
that.
what bar. Yeah, that was
Yep,
my field.
yep. And I took those 2. What they turned out to, they were 2 OxyContin 40s, is what they were.
You were
And
lucky to be alive because they usually start you out at 10. The fact that you took 80 milligrams as a young, you're lucky your
well, I was,
breathing
yeah,
didn't
I
stop.
was, you know, I was in my upper 30s when I did this, and
You're still lucky to be alive
yep.
because that normally
And
would have cut the
the
breathing
thing
off of
was,
most
man,
people.
the switch got flipped, man, and
You're
everything
lucky.
was working again, man. I had the greatest night that night. You know, I mean, it's a little crazy to say, but I remember me and the kids had a party. My wife then worked second shift at nursing. She was a nurse. She worked all week.
Hmm.
She worked this thing called was weekends only. Worked
Yep.
on weekends only, and she
12
could be
hour shifts.
yep, and she could be home on the weekdays and so I have pictures someplace of the kids both in do rags, me in a do rag, and it's just. But my point here is I added that pain pills on top of that alcohol, and the world got right again, just like it did when I took my first drink at 14 years old, and I could hang out with the guys and be one of the crowd. I didn't know how to do that before then. I couldn't feel like I fit in, and I found that magic elixir that made me sociable, and you know the almost cliche. I could ask the girls to dance now and all that
Yeah.
and I had a
You were
resurrection.
taking heroin, buddy.
Yep. And
What legal heroin is Oxycontin. I was on it for 20 plus years. Almost killed me.
yep,
But dang, I used to feel good when I took it.
yep.
I
And then,
didn't
you know, the
feel.
next night I took the other 2, you know, and they wasn't quite as good. What they were was just lower tab 10s, but they
Oh,
still.
they were nothing. Little Tylenol, little
But
Lortab.
at my tolerance level back then, though, they were something. You know, I knew that it didn't
Yeah.
give me what the last night was, but the last night was just a little much, to be honest. I could not.
Yeah, you
I
were
didn't
you were
have to
high
be
as
that
hell.
high, uh, and it just started turning into you know, visiting mom more often
Bet. Did
because she
Mama
had
have a
this.
clue that her pain pill was she so drugged she hadn't had a clue? Because that happened to me when I was on pain medicine. I had a lady literally come live was actually my brother's ex fiance I took in after he dumped her. But she would come in and was like, I don't feel good. Can I get a couple of pain? I went, I don't care. Take them. You
Yep.
know, I was
And
drugged.
plus, at some point, they were giving you so many of them that it wasn't a
Yeah.
big deal. You know, I mean, that's the way mom got them in these huge, big. I said to me, they look like mayonnaise jars full of pills,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
uh, and so she did actually start missing them. And you know that there was that old thing that says that you know I'll steal your drugs and help you look for them. Uh, I
Exactly.
I did that with my mom. You
You
know, she
did that
called me
double
up.
life, didn't you, brother? You lived that double life well.
Yep, I did. And that con artist, and mom would call me up, and we would sit there on the couch, and we would both pontificate on who might be taking her pills, and it was me.
And so you probably carry guilt from that as well.
Yep. By the time I got to where I hit my real bottom, you know, and actually was in a position to want to do something about it seriously. In 2011, I came to AA because of basically a bad weekend where I ran out of pills and we were on vacation and got in a fight with my wife and finally told her I had a problem with alcohol. I didn't mention the pills. And
Yeah, you conveniently left that part out, huh?
yep, yep. And a year later, I had not drank in a year. I still did some other things, but I didn't drink in it for in a year. And I played that con man there too.
Yeah.
Um, but at some point, I had stole all my relatives' pills, every friend I knew that had any, neighbors, everywhere that I could find them, I cleaned out their shelves because for a
Oh,
while it
wow.
was unbelievable how you could go to anybody. I felt like I could go to anybody's house and
Yeah.
find a freaking old script sitting around.
Well, you know, the opiate addiction is a $7 billion industry, and DuPont, the DuPont family who did Oxycontin, just got sued, and I believe it was billions because I was actually a part of that class action lawsuit. Yep, sure was because they almost killed me.
Yeah, yep, it is. So when I ran out of them, I didn't do the street drug thing. You know, I didn't go buy them. What I started doing was breaking in houses because I had a pretty good
Oh,
percentage of
wow.
when I would go in somebody's house, had a pretty good percentage of finding some in places I went. And old man across the street had fell out of his wheelchair one day, and And the lady called me, and I'm living in the house that I grew up in. So I've known these people 40 something years by the time that this event happens. And they called me up and wanted if I come over and help him get him back up in the chair. And when I went over there, I saw that he also had the stuff I liked. And I
And all the
conned
good
him.
candy, didn't he?
Yep. And I conned him out of the room and got in his stash that day. And I
Did you
started
take
going
all
over.
of it? Did you take all of his pain
I never
medicine?
did. I never would take it all. I
Good.
never
That
would
means
take
you have a
all of it.
conscience.
If I looked at it, it was a 5-year-old script or something, I might take it all. But if I knew people were using it, no, I never did. I never did take it
Thank
all. And I remember
goodness.
when I was breaking in houses, I'd find piles of money and leave it behind.
Yeah. You
Uh,
just wanted your drugs.
I just wanted the pills.
Did you ever
And
get arrested or in trouble with the law with
so,
that?
yeah, in June of 2014, I had the girlfriend that took me to yoga and stuff. This was before she took me to yoga. I just come home from a trip to Thailand. My company used to send me to Thailand all the time. Um, I just come home from there. We were sitting here. We just put the kids to bed. Uh, my daughter and her daughter were in my daughter's bedroom, and my son was in his bedroom asleep. And I was sitting on the couch drinking beer. And I told her, "Hang on, I'll be back in just a minute." And I went out the back door like I'd done so many other times. I went across the street and I went into that house, and the lights were all out. And I snuck back. Over time. The medicine kept moving because they knew something was up. And by now the medicine is in a dresser drawer back there by his in his
Oh,
bedroom.
wow.
So I
You
slipped
had
back
some
in there,
big ones to break in and go sneak back in a dresser drawer.
and when I shook out a handful of them, and when I turned around, there was a silhouette standing there, and he had a baseball bat and pepper spray, and he laid into me with it was the old couple's son, and he was around my age. He's an adult son. He's 50 probably,
Did he
and
beat your butt?
he tried to, and he hit me with that pepper spray, and we were in a little tight hallway, so he couldn't really get me with the baseball bat very well. He did connect with me once as I pushed him away, and I ran out the door. um, I took off running up one way. I didn't run to my house. And now, see, the thing is, this guy knew who was doing it by now, because 6 months earlier he caught me in there once before, and
Uh,
he let me go. He had me pinned down on the floor, and he was telling this girl, there's some younger female that was there, to call 911, call 911. And he said, "Who are you?" And the second I told him what my name was, I said, "Dan Reeves." I felt the pressure of his knee come off on my back. And he said, "Leave." And I did.
he knew you were a neighbor.
Yep. And, but he didn't know who I was until I told him who I was,
Yeah.
laying there on the floor. And the guy come over a couple of times, rang my doorbell and stuff, and he was tempting to help me, trying to get me some help, but I wouldn't answer the door. Um, I After numerous trips to rehabs and stuff, and I'd get a little sobriety going, and that's what had happened here. After that last time 6 months ago, I checked myself in a place and got a little bit of sobriety, and then my divorce was final, and the company sent me to Bangkok, Thailand. It was like a reverse bachelor party. And then when I went over and drank, I said I wasn't going to drink at home. I only drink over here. I
I
was
don't
joking.
drink on vacation.
Yeah, yep. And I figured, I could have a domestic sobriety date and an international sobriety date, and they wouldn't necessarily have to be the same. And so I just come home from all that, and I'd started back into drinking again. And the main reason I got drinking again is because I ended up, meeting some girl on the internet. And she wanted to meet at a bar, and I knew in my heart, I was like, "Don't do it, Dan. That's a dumb. You're
Oh,
not going to make it." And so when I was waiting for her at that bar, and the guy come up and said, "What do you want?" "Yep,
it's
give me a beer," because I need it. Still need it for that social anxiety back then.
to get
And
that confidence, talk to the girl that you just met.
yep, yep. Um, so I ran off, and that guy, I hid out all night, and I told that girl, I had my shirt was so full of pepper spray, I couldn't wear it. I took it off, and I was in people's backyards trying to hose my face down because every orifice on my head was leaking mucus from all that pepper spray. And I didn't know what to do. I was
Milk.
settled.
Next time, use milk.
Yeah.
Milk.
Uh, yeah, there won't be a next time, I hope.
I hope not, but with this
Yeah.
world, the way we are of Nazis trying to take over, you never know what you
Yeah,
can
yeah,
get.
yeah. I
Right?
could get hit with pepper spray again. It won't be for this next time. Um, I remember walking around the neighborhood, and I grew up in this neighborhood, and thinking over and over again, what the hell am I going to do? What do I do? I don't, have no fucking idea what to do. And I ended up coming back to my house a couple times. There was police in front of my house and police in back of my house. Like if I would have to break the headlight beam to get in either part, and I would back off again for a little while. I didn't have my watch. I didn't have my cell phone. And remember, I'd told this girl a little while ago, I'll be right back. Like I
Oh
was going to the
man.
restroom or something, and I disappeared on her. And well, she found out what happened in a little bit. But I come in the backyard later on in the night, and I see the lights are all gone. The police lights are all gone. But what I did notice that all the lights in the house were on. And I sit there, I sit in the backyard, I sit down underneath this pine tree back there. And again, I don't know what to do. I have no idea what to do. And I suddenly heard this back door shut and open and shut. And I joke about it now because, like I said, I've lived in this house. Mom and Dad bought this house when I was 3 years old. I grew up, got married, moved away, all that. Not away, it stayed in the same town, but we bought a house. And then later on, Mom and Dad wanted to sell this house, and we bought it back when I was still married. So I still had it after the divorce. And I know every noise in this house. I know every creak, every floor. I like do not oil that door because I want to be able to
Yes.
open that
I'm
door. I
like that
notice
too.
it.
Are you real sensitive to noises? Because I don't know if it's my sobriety, but oh my gosh, I'm sensitive to noise. I can hear a pin drop.
Me too. And I can, in particular noises and particular sounds, I'm tuned in on. We have that
You're
place out in
triggered probably. Like blue lights trigger me. I
the
don't like police. I don't play with police. I have nothing against you guys, but they trigger me terribly.
Yep, me too. I can't. I
Yeah, I
come
can't
down
handle
there at
them.
our camp. I can hear a car coming down the gravel road way before anybody else does. I said, somebody's coming. And they're like,
Yep.
what? And then there they will, and they'll say, I
Yep.
can hear it. And I was like,
It's
I know.
amazing how that fight or flight survival gets kicked in,
Yep,
Dan.
yep. And I heard that door shut, and I looked up this way, and there was my dad standing with two 5-gallon buckets, and he set them outside the door, and they looked really heavy. And he started walking down the stepping stone path that would lead to the garbage, which would led right past me. And I remember sitting there, and I curled up in a ball, as small as I could possibly be, hoping he'd walk by and not see me. And I could hear his footsteps, and all of a sudden I heard them buckets get set down, and
What was in the
he said,
buckets?
he said, Dan? I said, yeah. He said, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm okay. He said, are you hurt? I said, no, I'm not hurt. And the next feeling I felt was his hand on my knee as he sat down beside me on that fence and put his hand on my knee. He said, let's go inside, take a shower, hit the sack. We'll deal with this tomorrow. And Mom and Dad by now knew that I had been struggling with some issues. They knew about my rehab stints and
Mhm.
and the things, and they knew about the 6 months earlier because when this guy couldn't get my attention, he went and looked up my mom and dad and told them. Uh,
Oh, wow. Mhm.
so,
That's one
uh,
way to make an impact to tell mom and daddy.
yep, yeah. I was 45 years old then, I think, and he's going to call my parents on me. Uh,
You're a drug addict, Dan. It happens.
Yep. I know it's like a computer virus. It's parasitic. It hijacked my operating system. Was not me in control of myself at that point. The disease had its hooks in me, just like a little monster with a joystick. It had labeled Dan, and it was driving me around, having me do what it wanted me to do, using
I
me for
believe it's a
transportation.
Jezebel spirit. I'm a minister and I'm a big woo woo stuff person. I wear my crystals. This is an art crystal, by the way, beautiful. It's not mine. I'm wearing it because I love the way the energy feels. But people don't realize when you walk through addiction, it opens portals. Like I've seen black shadow people like literally crawl trying to get me. It's a spirit. You're dealing with a spirit. And that spirit, like you said, is parasitical. It comes in like a parasite, feeds off you, and takes over your autonomic and your mental and your emotional. It's
Yep.
a spirit.
Yep.
Spirit of addiction.
So I come back up in the house, and what I found out was when that guy, he thought I ran home. And he came to this house and raked out the side lights with his ball bat on the sides of my door,
Dang.
smashed the window, let himself in, and came in the house and started busting everything that he could find. He busted up a big mirrors,
In your mom and
glasses.
daddy's house?
This is my house now.
Okay.
but my girlfriend, my new girlfriend, was here by herself, wondering where in the hell did Dan go a little bit ago, and she hears the noise. She's in the bathroom. Later on, she tells me she's in the bathroom peeing, wondering where the hell I am. Knows my phone is sitting on the coffee table, and I'm gone, and all of a sudden somebody starts bashing in the house.
How terrifying.
Yeah, I know it. Very. And she ran back to and sit back by them kids' bedroom doors to protect those children from whatever monster was coming in the house. And she come up the hallway, and those two met face to face and had no idea why the other one was in their life at the moment. And it could have been a catastrophe. And that is my disease and bringing into the world some stuff that is not, just flat shouldn't
Yeah.
have.
And addiction affects your family. Y'all
Body
don't think
religion,
it's just you, boo boo. It
the
is your
biggest line in the
family.
world.
It
I
is
ain't
your
hurting nobody but
friends.
myself.
Yeah, it's your work people. They have to put up with your crap if you're an addict.
Yep, no doubt. Absolutely. So what my dad was doing was cleaning up all that glass. He had 2 5-gallon buckets full of glass, and that's what he was carrying out to the end of the
That's
street.
what it was. And he just asked if you were okay.
Yeah, yep. We'll
What
deal
a
with it
good
tomorrow.
daddy.
I do. He just walked through here just a second ago. He knows exactly what I'm doing today. Uh,
Thank you, Daddy,
Yeah,
if you're listening.
mom finally passed away in 2016. I'd just gotten off of home incarceration because of that thing, but and a couple years later, he was looking to move out of the house that him and mom were living in, and we made an agreement, and I got kind of a studio apartment upstairs, and since I guess since 2018, him and I have been roommates,
I
and
love it. Well,
and I
he
can give
keeps you
back to him
accountable.
today all the support. He's had my back from the beginning, even all the bullshit that I was doing. He still had and loved me and stayed with me and did everything he could do to help me. But they didn't, one thing I can say he didn't do wasn't an enabling type of thing. Now he didn't, he probably could have leaned the other direction a little bit more, but I'm not going to second guess that today, but because he was tough about it all. But he had my back the whole time, and today I get to pay that back at some level by us living together. And he's really my,
Your
it's a
best friend.
toss up between my dad and my sponsor.
Yeah. And your
Well,
best friend, which should be your
yeah,
sponsor.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. Those two guys are very. I don't know what I'd do without them. I went to bed that night. I went in there. I come in the house. I looked in the crying eyes of my mother. I looked in the crying eyes of this girlfriend. The police had come in and searched the house, and they'd looked underneath the kids' beds and underneath in the closets and stuff. And my kids did not wake up. They were spared the memory of the cops
Thank
coming in to look over
goodness.
their dad. Yeah, and that's when I started noticing miracles happening as a result. Some of that stuff I couldn't see at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but that one came clear to me pretty quick. And I went to bed that night. I think it was around 3 in the morning, and I left at about 9 p.m. It had just gotten dark, and went to sleep and woke up in the morning. Took another shower, trying to get all that damn pepper spray out of me. And I walked out in the backyard and I picked up the rock where I'd hid all them pills the night before and grabbed a half a dozen of them and threw them in my mouth and swallowed them and stuck the rest of them in my pocket and took off.
A half a dozen. Your
Yep.
tolerance must have been through the roof.
And the, there's a line in the big book. It says that we can't recall the memory of the suffering and humiliation of a week or a month ago. And at that moment, I couldn't remember the humiliation and suffering of last night. The stuff had the hooks in me, and the best thing I could do the next morning was go out in the backyard and take some more, and be happy that I'd hid them back there. I went and got them, and I put that girl in my car, that girl
Oh,
and my kids
wow.
in my car, so when they drove up the street, it wouldn't be me in the vehicle that he knows. And
Yeah.
I left in her car earlier, and just
Why? Yeah.
saying, yeah, wise, but also sick.
Yeah,
And
it's sick because it's totally taken over your limbic system. It's taken over your autonomy. It's taken over your morals.
yep,
You're lying, you're stealing, you're deceiving, you're hiding. These are all addiction issues, guys.
yep,
If you get where you feel like you have to have something to get up, function, or if you come home and pop your Xanax and have your glass of wine, I'm sorry to tell you that's not normal and you have an addiction problem.
yep.
Even if it's scripts. I was all pharmaceutical scripts and I
But the
went to
doctor gave
rehab.
it to me.
Hmm?
But the doctor gave it to me.
I know. That's what I told them. My family, after my mother died, I was 257 pounds on 14 drugs. I found an old recording of me talking to my father because they stole my father from me. I was taking care of him, and I literally was so inarticulate. It was like this. I promise you, it was like, no, mom, no, no. It wasn't even articulate.
Yeah,
My daddy at 86 years old with Alzheimer's, it's like, baby, I can't understand you. And when I found that, I cried.
I bet. Yeah.
It brings back tears because that's not who I was. So you have come so far. We both have.
Yep. And that was ended up being my
Sorry, it just
bottom. And
brought
really
back
the
a
moment that
memory.
got me is I went down to I ended up contacting a lawyer because this wasn't going to go away. And he laid out how it was going to work, and a warrant came out for my arrest, and he arranged for me to go down and be arraigned or whatever it was. And
Right. Yeah.
and I stood in front of the judge down there, and he said, Mr. Reeves, the punishment for the crime you committed is the standard guidelines are 6 to 20 years in Indiana State, Indiana
Oh my
Department of
gosh,
Corrections.
6 years.
I will never forget that. Of course, the 20 is what I heard more than the 6, but uh, and I really did for a while thought that I was going to serve some of that. It was
And
just a
you didn't
matter of
have to
how much.
serve. You
I did
didn't have
not.
to serve.
I didn't serve a day.
God was
Yep.
working
Oh,
on
I
your
know.
behalf.
Yep. So, that happened at about the same time that this happened. I'm pretending to be sober because even after doing this, I can't stop drinking. I'd stop breaking in houses, but I couldn't stop drinking. And I'm pretending to be sober. The people around me, I got to hide it. I got to do, I drink when the kids aren't with me,
Yep.
and disappear and do all that kind of dance. And a friend of mine at work, he was getting sober too at the same time. And he has a crazy story too, man. He was getting sent to that office in Bangkok, Thailand, and decided to pick up again after a period of sobriety. And he crashed into the airport in Cincinnati, Ohio, trying to get to Bangkok.
Oh
He
my, I'd like to interview him actually. That sounds like a fabulous story.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty wild. We both had some pretty big stuff sitting on our heels, and he kept inviting me to this Tuesday night meeting. It was and they called it the Spiritual Underground, and I wouldn't go, because here's another little dynamic: is that anytime you offer me something that's working for you, I instantly
Hey, I
reject.
want it.
It's not my idea. It can't
Yep.
be a good idea. Well, one day. I'd been to court the morning. You're going to all these pretrial conferences and all this, and they're telling you, and by this time they're telling me, that we're just going to give me the minimum 6 years. Don't worry about it, you'll be out in 3. And that is
Just
not
3 years of your life, no big deal.
no big deal. Don't worry about it. You'll be out in 3, man. That didn't sound like a deal I could take. And I recall considering options like checking out permanently, suicide, something. I wasn't going to go to prison.
Because you're like me, you're not gonna put me in a box.
Yeah,
You're naturalist like me. I need woods. I need
my
green.
A
Put me in
number
a
one
concrete cell,
core,
I die.
A number one core value is freedom,
Yeah.
and I pick it
Yeah.
above everything. It comes to that's what I and so yeah I was. So this guy invites me. Yeah, I was drinking. I would go to court in the morning, and then I would get loaded the rest of the day, so I didn't have to think about that. Just to deal with the remorse and the grief and all that.
Did
And
you
I
go to
would,
court drunk and
no,
drugged?
no, I would leave drunk. I would leave court and go straight to the liquor store, get as much as I could to carry me through the night because I couldn't buy too much
Yep.
because I couldn't get caught having it sitting around the house
Yep.
after the fact. So, and then I would always, take my garbage and go throw it in somebody else's garbage can up the street. And
Have you bottle underneath there? I was
that
laughing.
worked for a while, to do that. It would drown it out enough that I could get to sleep at night and wake up tomorrow. But that one, I had a court date on a Tuesday, and that friend had been inviting me and to go to this meeting, and I stayed sober that day, and I was coming unglued by the time I went to this meeting that night, and
Did you suffer from tons of anxiety, Dan? Because I
ton,
do.
yeah, yeah,
Tons of anxiety. I found CBD is the only thing keeps me sober.
really,
Because
yeah,
I wake up, I have complex. I'm not claiming it. I'm not going to wear the jersey, but they say I have complex post-traumatic stress from my car wreck, and I was sexually assaulted about 5 years ago, and that assault opened up the childhood assault. I didn't even remember this assault, my adult, for 3 months because my brain couldn't take it. And then it was like a movie played in front of my face. And it was my best friend took me to a colonics clinic. Didn't know those two were doing free therapies with each other. and he attacked me as I was on my stomach getting a raindrop, going to get a raindrop. I couldn't even remember it for 3 months. And then she stood by him in court. That betrayal, I shut down. My nervous system just went
Yeah.
offline. I got real thin like I am now. I would wake up literally profusely sweating, shaking, and I would see his eyes turn black when he was attacking me. And that was fresh out of sleep. And I'm like, how can I wake up, heart palpitating, sweating? And I didn't understand. I thought I was going crazy. And my trauma therapist is like, no, you're subconscious. You were in trauma. This is complex post traumatic stress. And post traumatic stress looks a lot like mental illness if you're not going to a certified therapist.
Yep. Yep. A lot of that is the thing with a lot of the addiction circles and trauma, uh, will
It's
look
all
like
trauma.
will look like some other kind of mental illness, and funny thing about an alcoholic is they would rather be crazy than be an
Yeah.
alcoholic. I'll
Yeah.
call me anything besides an alcoholic, and then they
I'd
don't.
rather be crazy than an addict. Like, she's just crazy. I
Yep.
hate the word addict
Yep.
because I was raised with money from a very upscale Mississippi family. Church, my daddy was a deacon, my mother was a organist. So the shame that I carried, even though it
Yeah.
was prescription, it's trauma.
Yep.
And it stays in your electrical field
Yep.
until you process it.
Till you deal with it, till you heal it. Yep. I went to that meeting and I spilled my guts in that meeting about where I've been, and I got the timeline a little bit wrong. That guy had asked me to come before, and I went to a couple meetings and went in there telling everybody I was fine. But that day that I didn't drink, I went to that meeting and after my court date, and when they said this thing, they said, "Does anybody have a burning desire, something they need to get off their chest, something they need to talk about?" And that day I'd been sitting on all that, and I just puked it all out, and told those people where I was at. And a man come up to me after that and offered to sponsor me and take me through this work. And I felt something about that guy's soul from the get go, and he's still my sponsor today. Uh, there was some kind of hope that it was intangible that like I reached for and grabbed a hold of that this guy could really help me. Now I really didn't think that he was going to save me any jail time, but I knew if I didn't stop drinking, I was probably going to go to jail. You know,
And die because your liver's going to shut down.
yeah, yeah,
Do you have
and
any hepatic dysfunction from all those years of drugs and alcohol? Because I have issues.
yeah,
25
I have,
years Oxycontin has not been well to my liver.
yeah. Uh, I am a picture of health today. I don't know if, well, one thing is I inherited some awesome genetics from my dad. His mom lived to be 103. All her brothers and sisters were centurions.
Yes.
He's 83 right now, and he's in and out, and he push mows my grass. And uh,
Was he Army? I'm getting a veteran vibe from
no,
your daddy.
no,
No?
well, he did a little bit of Air Force, but not
Okay,
really.
I got a military
Um,
something. So tell your daddy
But
thank you for his
yeah,
service because he
thank you.
probably, that military training probably helped save your life.
Yep, yep, very well so. Uh, this guy asked me, he said, "Well, I got some ground rules. I call them ground rules." And he said, "First off, do you have a big book?" And I said, "Yeah, I got a big book." And he says, "Has it been written in? Has it got?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, it's got highlighted. I got tabs in it, everything." He said, "Get rid of it. We're getting a new one. We're doing it different this time."
Good for
And
him. He wanted you
he
to see it with new eyes.
said,
That's what he wanted you to do.
"I want you to call me between 1 and 3 every day."
Good.
And so the very next day, I called him at 2 o'clock because that is between 1 and 3.
And
And
he put up boundaries. He
and
put
I
up
met him
boundaries.
every
This is
single
what
day.
I require to work with me.
I want
And he
to. I
made
want.
you respect them
Yep, he did.
and
Uh,
accountable.
He said, "My only time to meet with somebody is Tuesday nights after this meeting. Are you available?" And I just said yes. I didn't check my calendar.
You were
I
one of
just
my,
said
yeah.
yes. There was something that told me that. And I remember walking out of the church that night at this 12-step meeting. And I plain remember, I remember plain as day as I walked out of that church looking up into the night sky, knowing something was coming into my life that I needed, and I grabbed a hold of that, laid my
That
life at
golden
ease.
ring. You were like, I'm holding on at all costs.
Yep. And
Yeah.
I started doing what that dude told me. And, I didn't go to the courts and tell them what I was doing. I mean, my sponsor knew I was, but, for the most part, they don't really give a shit
They
that you're
really
working the
don't.
courts.
They really don't.
And, and all of a sudden they started these sticking on these pretrials. They were stuck on that 6 years, and all of a sudden they come down to 3. And I'd asked about home incarceration a couple of times. My sponsor asked me, suggested that I ask them about doing some home incarceration or doing some kind of something else besides going to prison. And when I did, they come back and said, no, we can't let you do home incarceration in that house because you was breaking in. You got caught breaking in that house. And the whole neighborhood was pretty much up in arms too. I was
Oh, I'm
person.
sure they were. They wanted you out.
Yep, yep. I had violated their security at a level they weren't willing to have me as a neighbor anymore. And
Yeah, you weren't Mr. Rogers, and you weren't welcome in our neighborhood,
you're exactly right. Yeah, and
yeah,
they were going down and talking to the prosecutor and making their voices known.
which
And
hurt you, your case.
yep, and that's what my lawyer kept on saying. He's like, "Man, your neighbor, there's too many voices in the prosecutor and the judge's ears, and a couple of them were lifelong New Albany residents that had some kick.
Pull, clout.
Yeah, yep, and But my sponsor asked me one more time. He said, "Well, did you go back and ask him for home incarceration again?" And I'm like, "Christopher, I don't want to do that, man. It felt just so stupid. I mean, it's just like,
Right, right.
and and my girlfriend had said the same thing. Why don't you listen to your sponsor and do what he said?" So one more time, I tried it, and I said, and my lawyer laughed at me when I asked him. I called him up on telephone and I said, "Hey, I know it sounds crazy, but I really want to plead down to something that involves home incarceration." He said, "Yeah, I guess you do." And
Don't want to go to jail. I wouldn't either. You shouldn't have done drugs and drank.
I didn't hear from my lawyer for 2 weeks after that. And my sponsor just had me pray on it and just God's will, whatever that is, and accept it, whatever comes down the pike. Let's get you well and let's just do this work. And he kept on bringing me back as I would talk about, but you don't understand, man. I'm going to prison. This is what they're telling me. And he's like, I know, but let's just do this work. That's what we've got in front of us. Let's just do this work. And he kept me focused on doing that step work. And 2 weeks later, my lawyer called me after that last ask, and he said, "Hey, I don't know what has changed, but they're game for this. And here's the deal
Good
on the
God.
paper." He said, it's still going to be 3 years, but one of them is going to be home incarceration. One of them will be on probation, and the third one will be suspended pending successful completion of the first two.
You were
And
fortunate.
again, I know I watched these miracles happen, like, the different things of the policeman not searching my house. Every time I got in trouble in this little small town in Indiana, they put your name in the Tribune, in the local paper. And I've
Yeah.
been in that
They do
thing
that in Mississippi too.
since I was a little kid, man.
Yep. Little guilt and shame and embarrassment goes a long way in a little southern town.
The thing was, what always ate me up was the embarrassment I caused my parents doing,
Yeah.
because they were good people here in the community. And here's little Danny again in the paper for smoking dope or another DUI, or I got kicked off the
Stealing.
high school. I was a pretty good high school basketball player, and I got kicked off the basketball team and high
Oh,
school basketball for smoking dope on the way home from an away game. I have a little story wrapped around that. 5 of us got kicked off the team that night. I was a
oh,
sophomore, uh, a junior, and 3 seniors. The 3 seniors all lost scholarships over that. Uh, they didn't offer us any kind of treatment or anything like that. They didn't try, there was no like help offered to us. I was talking to the one guy who's still alive. Me and one other guy. The other 3 have
are
died as a
dead.
result of this disease. That's it.
Yep.
And this guy that I talked to on telephone, I'm relatively certain he was still struggling
Yeah.
by the way he was talking to me.
Can
And
you not tell? I can tell when people come up to me because I work with vets and I work with addicts and I work with very chronically sick people. They tell me I'm sober. I hadn't touched anything in a week or 48 hours. I was looking at them like, you are a liar.
yep,
You
it's like
drank an hour ago because I'm reading it in your energy. I'm an energy empath. You can't fool me. I read energy.
yeah,
I read drug and alcohol energy. I'm like, you're lying.
yeah.
And they
So it's
hate
a
me.
derogatory thing probably, but it's like that. Only thing I can compare it to, and I don't mean it in that rain, but some years ago the word gaydar was uh,
Yes, you
popular,
can
and it's the same kind
perceive
of thing. You
energy.
can see that, and you're like,
Yes. I have a gay brother, so I have incredible gaydar, trust me.
okay, yeah,
But
I didn't know if it was, with all the stupid political correct stuff today. Uh, what I don't want to do is I'm not big on political correctness, but I don't want something like that me step on my tongue and spoil my message, because my message is that there is a way out, and your life could be changed forever. And
right.
that's the story I'm carrying with me today.
And it's a
And,
beautiful story and it's a powerful story, Dan.
and I worked those 12 steps with that sponsor, and I walked through that 1 year home incarceration. They ended up letting me off 3 months early. I made just awesome friends with a gal who I call my angel down there. They have like corrections people
Hmm.
and that handle you, and they're more like the jailers and that, and they're hard
Yeah.
ass. I got called to the table one day because I left the house 90 seconds early. Uh,
90 seconds.
and you know where I was going? To my meeting with him.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, read me the
And
right act. I was
it's,
hoping he was going to smile at some point in that. I thought, surely he's just joking, but I couldn't smile because I knew the seriousness of what he was
yeah.
talking about. He'd never been cracking
'Cause they
any
could have
jokes.
thrown you in jail for that violation.
Yep, they could have. They could have
And they
outraged.
usually look for reasons to throw
Yep.
you in jail. And the
And
Lord
my
bless
friend
you with
Janine
a
got
with
me.
a wonderful partner now. Your
Yeah,
partner, Holly. Hey
yeah,
Holly. Hey girl.
yeah. Well,
Holly
be
Hartman
careful
is
there because Holly and I's relationship status has changed a little bit in the past week.
oh, okay. So all right. Well, I
We're
love
still
her, but
good. We're
it's
still good.
all good in the
All
hood. But
good.
y'all, you've
We're
had
still
support.
the story still is the same, is that God keeps on putting people in my life, and I never know if it's for exactly how long that season is going to be.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but I grow through that, and we had a wonderful year together. And I'm not saying it's completely over. I just I don't say
We're in a
never always.
transitional stage. How about that?
Yeah, and that core value of freedom for me started getting me, and I
Yeah.
need to have a level of freedom that suits my soul today, and I just can't really.
Well, it's all about keeping you sober. So whatever you have to do to be okay, I support fully.
Yeah.
How
Uh,
about that?
to go back to the Janine, who was my social worker side down at the corrections place, she, when I met her, it was another one of the things like when I met my sponsor, I knew that this person was in my life to make a difference in it. And time after time, she would have my back. And my mom had had a stroke while I was on home incarceration and lost half the use of
Oh, goodness.
her left side of her body. She couldn't swallow. She couldn't speak for a while. And there I am with an ankle bracelet, uh, a half mile away down from across town, and can't help, and can't help
That's
my dad
awful.
deal with that.
That makes you feel helpless,
It was
which
horrible.
creates anxiety, and which
And
creates where you want to drink or use. So it's crazy.
Janine kept on
Or
having my back over and over again during that. We ended up going to meditation classes together because she saw something happening in me, and she has the radar too because of her employment, and she could see that Dan really is getting better, and he really
yeah,
is. And that was awesome to have that made that friend that basically is my corrections officer, uh, turns into a friendship.
you're
The
very fortunate. And I want to offer too to you if you ever need another help, another sponsor, just a ear, just a shoulder, pick up the phone, brother. I'm here for you. There's no accidents in how God arranges and how you see things. So there's something in the universe that is
Mhm.
aligning me with the people I'm meeting. And
Yep.
I really want to pour into everybody I meet because I believe we're supposed to be a body and we're supposed to get the light and we're supposed to connect that light to other people. So
I
I'm here
agree with
for you in
you
any
100%.
capacity that you need.
Yep. Well, thank you. Thank
You're
you very
welcome.
much.
All right, and let's wrap it up. I've got another meeting I have to go to. We're about an hour and 10 minutes up. So I'm going to let you wrap it up in whatever you want to leave with the audience. What's
All
your
right.
final message?
Well, this truly is a disease, and it's something that's beyond our control. My experience is you're not going to whip this on your own. And just
Mm-mm.
what you said a minute ago, uh, today, my job and my purpose, I had some hurdles I had to go through in life, and we all do. It's the hero's journey thing. It's everybody's. It's the Buddhist love. Life is suffering. It's all that. And our job. I think my main job in life is to walk through that, slay that particular dragon, and then go back and show other people how that are in their walk, show them how to also slay that dragon.
Yes.
Like that, and I think that's that circle thing. And today, with things that's happened in the course of my life, I know there's been no accidents. The challenges I've had. My mom died when I was 16 months sober.
Mm.
I had to walk through that. Was My daughter was molested by her grandfather uh, just a few years ago. I had to walk through that. So
I hope you're
life is
getting
not.
her help. Are you getting her some help?
Yes, she is getting help,
Okay.
and she
Yeah,
is.
let her
I
get that out of her
promote.
body.
Yep, yep.
ITR therapy saved my life. Mary Carlson, if you're watching, ITR therapy, drawing the trauma, putting word association. The limbic system on the right is where the trauma, especially sexual, I've walked through this. It's over here. Talk therapy is left. You're never going to access it until you draw and put word associations and tell the story and let your brain go, ah, this is what happened. I'm safe. And this was a story. And the
Yep.
brain releases the trauma. The first time I did this process in my sexual assault, the next morning I woke up with no shaking and no crying.
Yep.
That's huge.
So it's not all rainbows and unicorn farts, as I like to say, but
No, it's
what I
not.
can
It's
do is
hard
walk
work.
through things in a healthy manner today. And it's given me the proverbial, the book says, a design for living that works. And I get the opportunity to sponsor a lot of men, women too. We're in have this thing called 12-step spiritual recovery here in Louisville, which we had a meeting last night. We have a few meetings a week, and where we offer these 12-step tools to anybody who wants them, not just alcoholics and addicts, because the tools work no matter what kind of trauma, no matter what kind of thing you've been through. You know, I say to people that I can guarantee you that this work will have a positive impact on your life. So we offer it to people, 12
How
steps.
can you get that? How can they find that, Dan?
You can find me at dan@spiritualunderground.org. If you look up Dan Reeves, there's a good chance you'll find me. You can find me through my podcast, the Spiritual Underground Podcast. If you connect to me in any of I'm pretty available, dude, and got a bunch of different emails out there from my handyman business to my podcast. I can hook you up with those meetings, and they are primarily Zoom right now.
Good.
Looks like the world is transitioning to a hybrid meeting. My men's home group, my AA group, is making a successful transition to a online and face-to-face meeting where we can, because we've got some guys that live in rehab centers and nursing homes and stuff. And the beauty of COVID was they're able to join the meetings again after missing them, you know.
Blessing in disguise.
So we're doing everything we can to keep that option open so that people who work a second shift can still take an hour off their night and make the meeting and all that. So hook up with me and I can get you in contact with 12-step spiritual recovery. There's also a website. It's a lot of letters, but it's 12stepspiritualrecovery.com. And, you know, I devote my life today to helping people recover from whatever it is that I can help them recover from. That is the purpose my mission at this point in my life. It's been serving me very well to do that. You go out and help folks, and my problems get small real fast.
Me too. It's a blessing to help other people. So if you are an addict out there, if you're an alcoholic, or if you're in an abusive relationship or being sexually assaulted, please reach out to me or Dan. We've walked through this. We understand the demons that attack your mind and your body, and we can help you center your soul and your mind and reconnect under source. Thank you, Dan Reeves. This has been a blessing to talk with you. And anytime, if I can ever help or even come on and share my story, I'd love to share my story with your audience. I'm here.
All right. I thank you for
All
the
right, guys.
opportunity to participate in my recovery.
Yes. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining in Eden's Living today. Remember, you can heal one bite, one step, one thought at a time. Dan Reeves, signing off to you, sir. Thank you so much. I'll end the show. Hang on to me. Don't leave, Dan. Y'all have a blessed day. Remember, I love you and God loves you too. You can heal.